What's it like being back in America now, having had 3 hit singles, all in the top 10 from one album? I think that's the first time in 20 years that that's happened.
I don't know about that, but it's nice being back here because the band, generally, as a band, is appreciated here rather than just me. In England, we still have this very 70s scream, hysteria thing. So everybody screams at Boy George and everybody looks at my clothes. Here they're kind of into the music, and I'm very surprised at the normality of the audience. You know, I'm expecting people with plant holders on their heads, and I'm getting the regular type people, so it's quite exciting, you know, because we're breaking through. Well, musically, I think we're getting stronger as a band. I think one of the sad things, I think I get in the way of Culture Club's success a lot of the time, because, you know, the band, the 3 other guys are very talented musicians. They're very serious, and the subjects we deal with are very serious. You know, they are very serious in a sentimental way. You know, we write very kind of classically type pop songs with, I mean, I think about what I write. I don't just write na 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 na. You know, I write words, and I write about people, and I write about emotions, love, things like that. So we are very serious musically, especially on the new album. But I think that kind of a lot of people look at the cover and go, I'm not having it, you know, I'm not having this guy. And it happens because, although in America we have a much older audience, which is great, you know, because I think people are just saying, to hell with it, let's go and see what they're like. And it is good, you know, and the reviews have been very good.
What do you feel the reaction is like in America in terms of your image? Do you think that people are more willing just to accept Culture Club and
Well,
the
one
music?
of the things they said in the first gig we did here, this tour, they said that Boy George is finally making his point about his appearance. It's irrelevant. And he should be able to wear it once, because what he's doing is he belongs to one of the most appealing pop bands, which is good, you know, they're taking us as a band and not as this freak with, you know, whatever. Because, you know, I don't know, I've been doing it for such a long time, I think I've gone beyond being a freak now. You know, and I don't feel like a freak, actually. I feel quite normal.
You also said you used to be much more eccentric.
Oh, yeah, a lot
How
more.
eccentric?
Just probably a little bit more egotistical, a little bit more in love with myself, you know, because I didn't have anything going for me. And also because I didn't, you know, I lived in a fantasy world where I did what I wanted. I got up when I wanted, ate when I wanted. Whereas now I live a regular life. I have to fit things in. So I'm surrounded by people, and I think you become more affectionate when you've got people around you. You have to become more affectionate, otherwise, you know, you get a bad reputation, as many rock stars do. You know, you get chauffeurs who say, "Oh God, this person is a real jerk," you know. And I don't want to be like that, because I think after you finish being a pop star, there's so much more that you can do, you know.
I think it's something more too. I think perhaps a lot of girls who are growing up today, and a lot of women, are very confused. I think women's liberation threw them in a panic, and they're not necessarily aggressive, or they don't want careers, or they're confused as to whether they should get married or they should be Betty Davis or whatever the choices are. And there's something about the thing that you project. Now, I'm not talking about the music, I'm not talking about the lyrics, because that's a separate issue, but just the image, I think that's perhaps kind of safe. I mean, it's asexual in a way, don't you think? It's like they're not threatened by it.
In Japan, there's a cartoon that's just absolutely massive now. It's just happened, and it's a boy who dresses up as a girl and goes to a girls' college, and all the boys hate him, want to kill him, and every girl in Japan loves him. He's a star. I love him because they can talk to him. And I think that, you know, all this kind of women libs thing is a very sort of, it's silly in a way, because I have a really big respect for women. I think women are stronger than men. I think they have more emotional power than men. You know, it's far more likely, well, in Britain anyway, that a man will walk out on a marriage than a woman will. Women very rarely walk off on their responsibilities. Men do a lot. You know, a lot of men I know do. And I think that women kind of have been treated as if thick, you know, and a lot of women maybe want that, but I think a lot of other women don't. A lot of kind of really average, suburban, working class people don't want that. They kind of don't even want to think about it, you know, the difference. They just want to get on with their lives. And I think that I'm not pointing out anything to them. I'm not saying, you know, I have actually couples that write to me and say, you know, I like you, my boyfriend likes you, you know, and it's not sexual at all. It's just we like you. We like what you're about. I've had guys writing to me asking them to write to their girlfriends. Please write to her, you know, she's crazy about you. But it's not, you know, people don't see him as a threat, and I think maybe that's quite good. You know, I'm not here to threaten anyone. I mean, there are certain threats about what I do, but only because I think of the honesty, you know, in it. I don't think it's threatening in a way that you have to really sort of kind of analyse it. I think it's just very straightforward, and people aren't straightforward. They just aren't, you know.
What's the worst thing about it, or the bad thing, if there is one?
I don't know. I haven't really accounted. There are bad things, but I don't really think about bad things, you know. If I meet someone and they're nasty, I just forget about them as quick as possible. But What is the worst thing about being successful?
Well, just this whole thing, just the way your life is like now. I mean, what is your life like now? When you're not in the studio, you're not doing interviews, you're not touring, what do you do? Or is there no time for that?
Comedy shows. I'm quite... I do lots of things, you know.
You don't go out much.
I meet a lot of fans, though, because a lot of kids come to my home, knock on the door. I mean,
You don't mind that.
I do mind it, sometimes. I think anybody minds having their privacy invaded, but you can't have one without the other. I generally am quite... I mean, I never... You know, sometimes I picked up the intercom and I've gone, "Get lost!" And I've heard this little voice go, "Hello, is Boy George there, please?" And I think, God, how could I be so horrible? And you go down and it takes 5 minutes. You know, not that many people know where I live, but enough do. Enough do to keep me driving me mad, you know. But you don't do it unless you want to do it. That's really the truth of the matter. And you do know a certain amount of things are going to happen to you before you're successful. And I think I'm luckier than most people, so I've got nothing to complain about. I mean, I'm very lucky.
Obviously, you've done pop songs that have been huge hits that get all kinds of people listening to them. It's a very seductive song. I mean, housewives like it, kids like it, black stations play it, AOR stations play it. Do you see a conflict between making that kind of music and wearing your hair in long braids and wearing makeup and wearing outrageous clothes and the Hasidic hat and so forth?
I believe that people do like this image. I believe that people do like the kind of glamour and the kind of colour. I think that people may be encouraged not to. And also, I think one of the things that's happened in America now is that MTV is not only now bringing the songs, it's also bringing the bands. It's bringing them into your front room with their kind of splendour and their images. And you're deciding whether you like it or not. And I think that a lot of kids in America haven't been given the chance. You know, everyone in England says Americans will freak. I never believed that, which is why, unlike Adam Ant or Phil Oakey, I didn't come to America and wipe my makeup off, cut my hair off. I came in a very honest way, and even CBS begged me to take my picture off the cover of the album, and I said, no way. It goes as it is, and I think American people will either love it or they'll hate it. And as it happened at this stage, people are enjoying it for what it is. It's just very good pop music.
CBS really did want you to take the picture off the cover?
I might tell you they didn't, but they did.
What was their reasoning? They said that...
Because, you see, what we did initially is we put out Do You Really Want to Help Me in a plain sleeve, because we wanted to push Culture Club on a musical level, you know. And obviously people are very cynical. They'll see you and they'll say, you know, it's got to be machines. This guy can't be a singer, you know. He can't be serious. So one of the things, obviously, they were very anxious about. But given the initial impressions, I think CBS has done a wonderful job with us because they did stick with it. We said to them, look, you know, people were saying, you know, it looks like Brooke Shields or, you know, whatever, and it can't be a guy. And CBS did stick with that in the end. And I think it really was the best decision for them, you know.
You said that you can't go out in London, you said. Really can't go out. I mean, you can't go to a supermarket.
Well, you know, when I got back from America the last time, I thought, you know, you've been in America, nobody really bothered me then because I wasn't well known in America at all, you know. I mean, I'm still not that well known here. But people in London all know me because I've been in every daily paper. I've been on the TV a million times. So I went to buy a newspaper and there were all these school kids, and even though I had no makeup on, I had my hair down, they just come chasing up the road after me.
Wait a minute, what do you mean you had no makeup on?
I just had no makeup on.
Nothing. What do you look like without it?
Like a ghost.
And your hair, what do you mean down? Not in
just,
the braids?
you know, down. No, in braids, but just kind of flat.
Do you leave them in those braids all the time?
Not all the time, no. When I wash it, I undo it.
How often is that?
I'll wash it quite a few times, you know, in a month.
But you have to take it all out?
You don't have to take it out when you wash it. You can actually wash it with them in, you know.
Do you know Don Letts? Do you know Don Letts?
I know Don Letts.
Because he has those things, and I'm just fascinated. I told him the next time he washed his hair, I must watch him do it because I can't imagine. Anyway, how do you feel about not being able to go out?
Well, you see, in a way, I think a businessman who concentrates on his job 24 hours a day is probably more successful than somebody that does it till 5 o'clock and gets drunk, you know, and goes out and finds a woman. I think that if you kind of concentrate yourself on what you're doing, you are more successful. And from the word go, I've worked very hard. And I don't feel like I've achieved anything unless I've got a headache at the end of the day, you know, or I've kind of, you know, because I have to do so much now. And also, you know, just being a pop star and having an image is so difficult, you know. It's more over the top when you have an image as well, because you've got to present that to people, and people do want it. If people see you in the street without it, they're kind of disappointed. They really are. You know, I've had little kids say, "Oh, where's your hat?" You know, and "Oh, I don't think you look very nice today, you know. I've had kids say that to me. So, you know, kids do want it because they're buying you. They're buying you and they want you to present yourself.
That's what I meant about being trapped in this.
No, you're not. You're only trapped in it because you don't have to do it, you know. You don't have to do it. I mean, it's just whether you want to or not, you know. It's whether you want to put up with all that kind of thing, you know. I mean, the thing is, at the end of the day, it doesn't bother me that much, or I wouldn't do it, you know. I mean, I write hundreds of letters to fans. I don't have to do that. I write millions. You wouldn't believe how many letters I've written this year.
When do you do them?
I do them in the evening when I finish working. I've written millions. I mean, you can... In England, it's a kind of joke. People laugh and say, you know, why do you do it? Because, you know, when I go into the record company and there's like 5 gifts for me from people, like kids that haven't got any money, that have spent a lot of money on a present for me, I can't ignore that. I can't sort of not write to them. I think it's totally selfish. And it takes 5 seconds to write a small note saying thank you. I'm really pleased. You know, when it was my birthday, the office was completely... It's about this big and you couldn't move. You know, the amount of presents, the amount of things kids sent me. You know, toys. I mean, I have like a toy shop in my flat now. I mean, I've got about 700 toys now. And I've given quite a lot away to children's homes, you know, over the last few months.
I read something that you couldn't bear to give them away, or somebody asked you why didn't you give them to charities or something, or hospitals.
Well, what I do is I keep the ones that people have made me, or ones that kids have had since they were 2, because you get girls that have had like a mouse since they were 2, and they give it to you and they say, you know, it's like tears in their eyes, you know, don't give it away. You know, and I do care, you know, about things like that. I mean, when I was in London doing a TV show about a week ago, there was a guy who came, and he was having a heart operation in a week. In fact, Thursday, he's having a heart operation. He's 15. And I'm not going to mention any names, but I went around the studio finding famous people to come and say hi. And there were one group, an American group, who wouldn't come and say hi. And I was very angry. I'm not even going to tell you who they are, but that really upset me immensely. I was in a temper, and I actually was really angry for like... I mean, I'm still angry about it now, but I've kind of calmed down since I arrived here. But it was 2 days before we came. I was really annoyed about that, because it's so easy. You don't have to do that.
Who came up with the melody line for Do You Really Want to Hurt Me? I mean, if you had to pick one person.
Oh, I always come up with the melody lines.
Well, then, basically, you write the songs,
no? Because they change. You know, I think that one of the things which destroys bands is money. And if somebody isn't getting as much publishing as the other person, they start strangling each other. I think that I'm not that interested in money. I'm interested in what I'm doing. I love what I'm doing. So the money kind of only helps to do what I'm doing. I think that, you know, obviously I'm not going to go down the street giving away $10 bills.
Are you still frightened to get on stage?
No.
You did at one time.
I hate it when I go on stage because I go like, I kind of get this in my voice. It's a nervous thing. Although, you know, when I'm in the studio, I can sing pitch perfect, and I sing in tune. But as soon as I go on stage, I go for a couple of numbers, and I hate that. I kind of find that really frustrating. And I hate singing live in studios, you know, in their TV studios, because, you know, you haven't got the audience, and you just haven't got something. When you play a live show, there's so much adrenaline that it goes. And, you know, I've been on stage, like, seconds before I've gone on, I've been, I can't sing a note, and I'm going, and then I've gone on, and I've been perfect. You know, and it's kind of getting a feedback from the audience. But, you know, I just go on stage, and I just sing, and, you know, and I just do what I have to do, you know. I'm very musical on stage. I don't really rely on any props. At least I didn't on the last tour. Maybe there'll be a bit more of a set on this tour, but it won't be anything glamorous.
Have you watched yourself? Have you watched concerts and videos
and
back? How do you think you look?
I run. I think I look awful. I think, God, what are people thinking? I've been on stage with bare feet, and I've gone off and think, God, I look like an ape. You know, I mean, I'm never, ever confident in a live situation. I just look as if I am. People say to me, you know, how can you be nervous? You look so confident. I mean, that's kind of very... I just go out there and I say, right, it's got to be done, you know. But anyway, that every time I go on stage, I feel the same. Obviously, you get less scared as you do it, but I never really become complacent about it, because I am kind of very unsure, you know. And sometimes you look in the mirror and you think, God, I look a real state, you know. And, you know, there's like millions of people out there waiting to see you. But you just got to forget about that and hope that the people have come to see more than just how you look. They've come to hear you sing.
Do you feel that you have to sort of dance and do kind of movements? Are you aware of what
Well,
your body looks like on stage?
Oh, God, no. Listen, I'm very unphysical, you know. I don't wear tight trousers, and I'm certainly not on there wiggling a hose pipe, you know. I mean, I go on, and I'm a blob, you know. I've said this in a million interviews, right? I'm just a blob, you know. And I just hope there's a bit of goodness in there. I just go on stage and do what I have to do. I'm not, you know, I don't go on in a sort of tight, sort of shirt and wiggle about and think, oh, you know, I bet people are thinking, what a wonderful body. I mean, I haven't got a wonderful body.
Do you exercise? Are you
Yeah,
conscious of that?
I do exercise.
What do you mean you have a terrible body? In what way? How terrible?
I got 2 heads and 3 arms. And, no, I mean, you know, I'm not.
Do you have a weight problem? I mean, are you
No,
aware
no.
of
I
that?
hate physical. I hate kind of tight trousers. I think if you see a woman in a dress that kind of pulls slightly when she walks, that's far more attractive than seeing somebody in half-inch of material showing the knickers. You know, I just think that people have got a kind of really weird idea of what's sexy. You know, I don't think Marlon Brando covered in oil is sexy. You know, I think Montgomery Cliff with a wired-up jaw is sexy. I think Elizabeth Taylor is sexy even now. You know, despite what Joan Rivers says about her. And I think that, you know, there's kind of things that people don't think are sexy, which I do. You know, and that's, you know, I mean, I don't deal with perfection, not in any way. You know, which is when I went to see Bowie, he is very perfect. That's the kind of atmosphere you get, that I am perfect. You know, ooh, I'm a statue. I'm not like that. I'm very imperfect, you know. But everybody is. That's probably why people like me.
You were talking before about being neurotic, and I'd read something that John said about you not being able to take control of your own life, that you were in chaos all the time. Is that true?
He just says that to make himself sound great. No, kind of.
But, I mean, is he the one who has to sort of keep you in control?
No, we do it with each other a lot. You know, like one of us goes off at a tangent, and then we'll kind of say, "Hey, calm down," you know. Nothing's happening. And we bounce off each other quite a lot, you know, in situations. John is the practical member. I'm the kind of mad professor, if you want, you know. I'm the Thomas Dolby.
Wait, hold on. All right, yes. But how is your life out of control? In what way are you the mad professor?
Well, you know, I'm kind of...
getting the laundry done or what?
Oh, no, not things like that. I'm very immediate. I mean... What I do is if I'm somewhere and somebody's rude, I immediately attack them, like verbally. I'll say, "What do you mean? You know, why are you being rude?"
Where did I hear that you threw a plate of food across the room? Did you at somewhere?
Well,
Some
usually,
party or something?
if I go somewhere and somebody's rude to me, I'll, you know, I mean, if you get in a lift and somebody's staring, I'll say, "Do you like what you see? You know, it's nice, isn't it?" I say, "Yeah, I made it myself." Or I say something like, "Next time I'm going to get one that fits." I kind of try to be, because people are very scared of confrontation. You know, people kind of. They have set opinions about how you're going to be when they see you. And I kind of like to throw those opinions. I mean, in that way, I'm kind of... I worry a lot of people, you know. I mean, if
you have a temper.
I have opinions. And if I meet somebody and I think there's something drastically awful about them, then I'll tell them. I mean, obviously, I've had to kind of cut that down a lot, you know. I mean, years ago, if I'd have met somebody and I didn't like them, I'd have said, "I don't like you. You're not very nice." I mean, I've been on a plane and there was this nice little guy, like... Pakistani boy who was really sweet, and he was chatting away to us, and his father came along and was really horrible, you know, like very rude, and kind of took him away. Obviously thought I was going to kind of take him away or something, you know, like a stalk bird. And I just had to say, you know, "I think you're really horrible. You're a really nasty person, aren't you? You know, why can't you just be nice?" And he kind of got really freaked out. But I have to kind of confront people in that way, because, you know, people say to me, "Oh, you shouldn't do that, you got to act like a star," you know, and all that crap. I can't handle that. If I meet a journalist that's rude about me, I'll just say, you know, "You're a fucking creep." Sorry for swearing.
Right,
You can edit that.
It.
Okay. I say to them, you know, "You're a creep. I don't like you." I've done it. And generally they really start crawling to you, you know, especially in England.
You did say something also once about it's nice to be in the charts and having hit records and everything, but the most important thing to you is to be successful as a person. What does that mean?
What it means is that, you know, I might sell millions of records and you might meet me and hate my guts. You might think, "God, what a creep. Who cares how much money he's got? Who cares how successful he is?" If you're a creep, you're a creep. It doesn't matter whether you've got a fur coat and covered in diamonds and a limo waiting outside. It doesn't matter how much money you've got. If you're a creep, you're a creep. And I think that, you know, to be a person is far more, you know, satisfying than being, you know, a figure, you know, or a record sales, you know, like being an amount of money in a bank or having loads of credit cards. I think, you know, it's nice to be able to say, "Yeah, I'm quite real. I'm quite a nice person, and I do make an effort." You know, I think that it's quite, you know, I mean, I do talk a lot, as if you haven't noticed. And
That's great.
But, you know, I think that people kind of like that because, you know, you expect to meet sort of a celebrity or a pop star and you expect them to be a bit colourful. And a lot of the time you're disappointed.
Did you think you were a good singer all along when you were just sort of hanging out, dressing up, living in squats,
No,
whatever?
no.
Did you have you had the same voice? Were
People
you
said
singing
to
along
me that
with
I had a
records?
good voice, but I never really was that confident. And when I first started, I had an average voice. I've got a more than average voice now, a better voice, but I'm still not at my peak. I take singing lessons now, breathing lessons, and I have more tone now, more kind of deeper tones, you know, and I'm learning a lot, you know, because this is my instrument, so I have to treat it like polishing a saxophone, you know. I have to kind of look after that. It's very important.
Do you think of this as a job? I mean, I know that you're very responsible about doing interviews and talking about Culture Club and sort of, as you put it, selling the band, particularly in America. Do you think of it as a job?
Of course it's a job.
But it's
because
not punching a clock. I mean, still
no, it's not. Well,
isn't
it isn't. No, it isn't.
Not
I don't want.
glamorous at all.
I want people to go beyond that. I think this is something that people. This is what I'm saying. You know, there's an old school of rock stars. This is gone. You know, what I'm saying to people is that it isn't glamorous. It is a job. I love this job. You know, I do it because I want to. Before I came to America, I sat for a whole day sewing up costumes with my mother. You know, I mean, I'm totally mental. You know,
You
because
really like this?
I enjoy it, yeah. And I think that bands, you know, there are certain bands, even now, like, say, Duran Duran, for instance, who make it look glamorous, and that's all very wonderful. But I can't be like that. I have to kind of feel the dirt, you know, I have to be real. I can't feel that kind of glamour because it isn't there for me, you know.
Well, when you're talking about rock star kind of glamour, are you also talking about decadence? I mean, you've said that you don't think of yourself as a rock star in the old way that people thought of rock stars, you know, with drugs and that excess.
You know, basically I base my kind of attitudes on very personal level. You know, I don't take drugs and I don't drink and I don't sleep with fans because as a person, whether I was a rock star or working behind a cashier's desk, I wouldn't do that because I have very strong kind of moral guidelines, which I stick to. You know, I don't say to people, look, you know, this is what you should do, but I stick to my own kind of morals. And I think that even as a rock star, I can continue that because it makes my life easier. It makes what I'm doing more exciting. And it makes me enjoy it, you know. And I don't surround myself with people like that because if I don't do that, then I'll have a nice situation. And I think that, you know, if you're enjoying what you're doing, then other people that come to see you will enjoy it as well. I think that's the main thing.
I want to ask you about the music. You did say to me that when you wrote Do You Really Want to Hurt Me, that you didn't want to put it out as a single, but that John Moss said it was a single, that your mother said it was a single, and finally you just gave in.
The rabbi.
What rabbi?
Sorry.
And that you finally gave in and put it out as a single. How could you not know instantly?
I just think that, you know, when you write music, sometimes you listen to a song and because you enjoy it so much, you feel a bit personal with it. You feel like you're too close to it. And I think sometimes you have to take an outside view. But I mean, as regards to this band, I mean, when I started the band, until John came along, it wasn't a band. I mean, he is really the backbone of this band because he came along and said, look, you know, I don't want to sit around. Let's get on with it. I mean, I'd spent weeks and months talking about being in a band, you know, yeah, we'll do it next week. And so when he came along, he said, look, you know, I'm bored with it. I want to get on with being in a band. I want to do something. So that's what happens. And John makes those decisions because I can't. When you sing a song, you know, it's different, you know. You see, I can't listen to music in the way that the musicians in the band do because I listen to singers. I'm interested in the sentiments and the kind of the way they're put across. So I can't look at it on a musical level. I always look at it on a personal level, which is a terrible way.
You don't think of yourself as a musician?
No, not at all.
Well, how do you write? Now, Culture Club is now Boy George, John Moss, Roy Hay, Mikey Craig, and Helen Terry is now definitely a member of the band, the singer. Well, how do you get together and actually write the songs? I mean, who came up with the melody line for Do You Really Want to Hurt Me?
I come up with the melody lines. That's my job. I mean, I go away and I hum into a tape recorder and I get an idea. I mean, it changes, and when we first started, they were like really rough ideas, and we worked on them together. Now that obviously, as you go on in a band, you become more professional. So, you know, you write better songs, hopefully, you know, if you don't move too far away from what you're doing. So generally, we just bung ideas together. But the melody line comes from me. I mean, I always write my own words, and the melody, sometimes they change, you know.
Well, Elvis Presley absolutely was selling sex. I mean, there's no doubt about it. He came along, he was a white man singing black music, which was a sexual music, which completely was considered shocking, threatening, and outrageous to everybody, right? And he was wiggling around in a way that was incredibly sexual to women and probably many men who wouldn't admit it at the time, you know. And I think you can go through probably every kind of major symbol and
think about what they represent.
And think about what they represent. I mean, I wonder if you feel that a lot of these little girls who are so kind of lusting after you. I mean, they are lusting after you.
Not all of them.
Don't you think?
Not all of them.
Then
no.
what is it? Do you think that they feel that you're sort of safe, cuddly?
There's a girl that follows us across America, I won't mention her name. She followed us from England, through Europe, through America on a Greyhound bus, across America to LA, everywhere. And this girl works as a hotel chambermaid in London. She's about 36. And she's been married. And I get the impression that she kind of wants to be with somebody that doesn't want to sleep with her, that just wants to be nice to her, And I think obviously a lot of girls in America banged on my door and sort of said, hey, open the door. The kind of heavy ones. But they're the same people that sleep with Thin Lizzy and any other group. They're not the kind of people that care about me, so...
In your personal life, or whenever you have time, that you're not working, you're not on stage, you're not Boy George, you don't have to walk out in public, you don't have to do an interview. Do you do all this?
Depends.
The makeup?
It depends if I get up, It's like washing, and putting on clean clothes. Sometimes you don't bother, for a couple of hours in the morning. And generally I do dress up wherever I go, If not dress up, I might even put a pair of old jeans on and a T-shirt. But I basically put some makeup on because it's kind of a very addicting thing, I do it all the time. And it's not because I think, hey, I'm putting on this great kind of alter ego. I don't take it that seriously. I am very honest about it. I just do it because I enjoy it. There isn't any other reason. And people really try to analyse, there's got to be some kind of meaning behind it, and there isn't. There really isn't,
Without dwelling unnecessarily on your whole image, do people, do you think, still consider this look a threat or something to gawk at?
What I'm doing is making things that maybe 10 years ago, 5 years ago would have caused a few shocks. I'm making them very traditional. When I started the band and when I kind of brought my image to America, if you say, I basically brought my music to America, but the whole idea was that I'd come here and I present it as very normal because it is very normal. And I believe that I'm very honest about my appearance. I say, yeah, I enjoy it. I do it because I want to do it, not because I'm kind of really surreal and and bisexual and I'm trying to shock everyone. I think it has a lot to do with your music. If your music is thought of on a very weird level, Do You Really Want to Hurt Me has been number 2 here. Time's been number 2. It's got adult contemporary chart airplay. I think really, what I'm doing is very traditional and also very domestic, and this is why I think that it is acceptable, because people say, the guy looks like a jerk, but I like his voice, and this is the kind of thing I've had to put up with quite a lot.
Do you think that you have created a situation for yourself where you may be trapped in this? If tomorrow you decided you wanted to completely change the look, take the makeup off, do something else with your hair, could you?
Well, the first thing is, would I want to? No, not really, because one of the things which people find very kind of disturbing is the fact that I do wear this all the time, day in, day out. I've worn it for about 8 years. Maybe even more extreme than I am now. My kind of style before was a lot more eccentric. I've kind of come to a very organised style now because I'm working and because I have to be practical. Before I used to be a lot more bizarre. I don't think I am trapped in this image. I think that it's something that I enjoy doing. And I think that, if you want to stop doing something, the thing is I never came along and said, look, this is how I'm going to be. I don't kind of preach a style. I just get on with doing it. And I think that, Mick Jagger wore dresses and now he wears stripy Fiorucci trousers and nobody really questions that. I think that, when you, like Bowie really set a precedence, he came here and he was kind of Bowie from outer space. And that's what he was like all over the world. It was like bisexual Bowie. I never really made a big deal about that. I let other people throw those questions at me, and I kind of avoided a lot of them.
Well, one of the things I know that happened with Bowie was that he felt that he created a character to sing his songs for him because he was so scared to do them himself. And Alice Cooper, much the same way, and then did get trapped in that character, and it almost ruined his life.
This is to do with having a sense of humour. I'm a very humorous person, and when I go on stage, if I sort of stick my head this way and I get a double chin, I don't kind of freak out and send all the photographers running, I believe that, I am a singer, and anything I do to my person is very kind of coincidental in a lot of ways, because it has become such a habit now. I don't take myself seriously, and I can laugh at myself. I try very hard to be normal. Very ordinary. I work 24 hours a day on being very average, and I think that this probably kind of counteracts everything else I'm doing. But I just try to present myself as not a rock star.
Now, for a radio audience, I just must say, you're sitting here wearing a yellow cotton coat, right?
It's a
with
coat,
sort of patchwork designs on it.
It's a Japanese kind of creation. It's almost like a cross between a kimono and a house coat and a city gents shirt.
Long braids, the Hasidic hat, headband,
Fringe.
Full eye makeup, purple, blue, very nicely applied, I must say. Brows, important brows here, lipstick. This you think is normal?
I think it's normal if you want to do it. I think.
Why would you want to be normal? That's really my point.
Okay.
I'm
not really saying that I want to be normal. What I'm saying is that what I'm doing is very normal. You know, normality is something that is normal to you. You know, if a woman goes to work 5 days a week in a factory and then Friday night she goes out to a dance and she puts on a Dolly Parton wig and a rhinestone catsuit, nobody's going to say, God, you're a poser. Because, you know, as far as they're concerned, she's allowed to have her 1 day a week, you know, to enjoy herself. And what I think is that people do like doing that. People do like kind of dressing up. You know, I mean, a guy that goes to work on a building site probably dresses up in the evening to take his girlfriend to the pictures. There's nothing any less posy about that. It's just that I take it to a very extreme level. I do it on a very personal level, and I do it all the time. That isn't any worse. It's kind of more professional in a way.
Do you ever feel like you just don't want to bother? Like you just can't be bothered putting on the brows or putting on the bass?
But you see, it's like saying a lot of rock stars will probably, you come along to interview them at 8:30 in the morning or whatever, and they might say, oh, I don't care how many people her radio goes to. I don't care who she is. I'm not speaking to her. But this is my job, and I love my job. And also, I like publicity, and I like kind of, if I go on a TV show, a lot of the shows I did in New York, the people said to me, please don't give one-word answers. I said, you're going to have a problem stopping me speaking, you know. So I'm not going to say to you, get lost. I'll get up at 6:30 if I have to see you then. But I'm here as a salesman, you know. I'm here to sell Culture Club. I'm here to tell people that I'm not a jerk. Because people do want to know what they're buying. People want to know whether there is more to you than just being a singer. And I think there's a difference between wanting to be like a typical rock star, taking lots of cocaine and being obnoxious, than being like Betty Davis and being a character, or Liberace. And I'm more concerned with being a character. I'd much rather be a person, you know, than a singer, because I know I can sing, you know.
Did you always know that you could sing?
No. I think that I was seething, but not really kind of that determined. I didn't say I could be. I think a lot of pop music is based on naivety, and I am very naive when it comes to music, you know, musical instruments. I don't play any. So I am very naive, and I think it was luck and hard work. I think you have to work hard, but also you have to have some talent, you know. I think that even if you sell pegs on sort of Fifth Avenue, you've got to have a bit of talent to sell them, you know, because not many people want to buy pegs on their way home from work. So really you've got to like kind of sit down and think, look, I'm 19, I dress up, I'm in all these papers, and I'm not doing anything. What have I got to sell? So I suddenly decided to get on with it.
What do you think the difference is that takes somebody from just being someone who hangs out, who's thought of as a character?
I see.
You know, just like any old drag queen in a club who then becomes... Do you know what I'm saying?
Yeah, well, first of all, I'm not a drag queen.
No, but I mean, I didn't mean you, but I meant
I understand what you
was.
mean. I believe that it's being accepted. It's like being a clown in a supermarket is not acceptable. Being a clown in a circus is. And the sad thing about people is that they'll look at you and say, oh, he's a pop star, you know, so it's normal, you know, they dress up, they have their gimmicks. So that side of it I find very offensive. I don't treat people badly whether they're a star or not. You know, I believe that you have to give people dignity. Everybody wants dignity in life.
Don't you like to take advantage of that treatment to some degree?
In what way?
Well, I mean...
What good treatment when people are being nice to me?
Yeah.
No, never. I can't do it. I think the rock system, you know, thing is dead now. People don't treat people like dirt anymore. I certainly won't. It doesn't matter how many millions I make, you'll soon see that I'm quite the same. You know.
Have you made millions?
Not yet.
You should do, though, with
Please
a song,
God.
don't you think?
PG, I might.
You have said something about having been kicked out of school and having been different always and being a misfit or whatever. What do you think it is about people who are... I mean, it's almost become a cliche in a way. There's no one who's a major star or who's in rock and roll who said they did well in school and behaved beautifully.
Or has a nose job or something.
But do you know what I mean? It's like, what do you think? Do you think that that's the thing that drives one to want to make it, just to sort of get back?
I think, basically, you know, you're yourself quite eccentric. I mean, you're not the kind of person that my mother would be friendly with, because you are kind of very outward. And you have a kind of... You're quite eccentric, you know, because most women are very straight, you know. I mean, you have a personality, which is something that a lot of people don't have. A lot of people have personalities, but on a very limited scale. And I think that, you know, if you meet someone like Betty Davis or Barbra Streisand, you know, they're kind of really loud. They're kind of... Even if you meet them and they're quiet, they're probably throwing things around the hotel rooms and, you know, phoning people at 4 o'clock in the morning, you know, things like that. I mean, they're all quite crazy people. I think you have to be quite kind of insane, in a way. In a lot of ways, you have to be kind of a bit loose to be able to want this, because it is a kind of hectic lifestyle. And once you get into it, you have to be a bit mad to kind of cope with it. I think there is a very kind of neurotic stream of... I'm very neurotic. I mean, but I'm also quite considerate. But I am a terribly neurotic person when it comes to situations. I get really... I mean... And I think this is one of the things which helps me to sort of drive along, you know.
What kind of situations?
When you sort of go into a supermarket and everybody jumps on you, you know, like you go to buy a tin of soup and you kind of get all these housewives jumping on you, you know. And, you know, because in England, as you said, I'm very popular with housewives. And in England, there isn't anybody that is frightened to speak to me. Wherever I go, it doesn't matter who it is, if it's a builder, everybody approaches me. I'm not the sort of person that people avoid. It's really weird. I mean, I'm like a magnet. People just come up to me, wherever I am, you know, any kind of shop, any kind of area. And this is really strange.
I just want to ask you, were you always this nice?
No.
What happened to change things?
I grew up.
Is that what it was, really?
I think so. I think when I was at school, I was a typical kid. And I watched, you know, when I was at school, there were like teachers, and there was a fat guy at school, and they picked on the fat guy and made him run around the school and made him, you know, like nearly have a heart attack. And, you know, at school, what they do to you at school is they encourage you not to have a personality. So that it's easier to teach 20 people that think the same than it is to teach 19 and one that doesn't. So, you know, I kind of rejected school in that way because I thought it was a very bad way of treating people. And, you know, I think a lot of kids go to school and they never grow out of that, picking on people, beating people up and being nasty. And I think I got picked on a hell of a lot at school. And I'm not saying, you know, I had a hard life, but I got picked on. And it made me stronger. But it doesn't always do that to people. It kind of kills people, you know, it kind of makes people even more insecure. It does. And I think that, you know, I hate that mentality, and I never do it to people now. I hate cowardism. I hate it. And, you know, because I've had it done to me, I know that I don't like it, and I believe, you know, if you don't like having things done to you, you shouldn't do them to other people. And that's basic. I mean, that as far as my religion goes, that's it. You know, that's religion for me.
Why do you think it is that all these sort of teenage girls are so madly in love with you?
Well, when I was in Germany, there were one of the concerts in Berlin. There were hundreds and hundreds of housewives at the back door. I nearly died of fright. There were old women of 40 with books full of Boy George, and they were kind of saying, "Oh, you know, boy, you sang." You know, really crazy women. You know, who were like crying and everything. There was in Amsterdam, the Paradiso, which is a really big drug hippie club. It was full of parents and kids, and the guy from our record company said, "This has never happened in Amsterdam, never." There were kids on their dad's shoulders, like, crying and kind of... I get given roses at concerts. I get, you know, in Germany I had about 60 cuddly toys in one night thrown on the stage. I believe that people come along to concerts. It's like going to a fancy dress party. The attitude with my attitude towards concerts is that people come along and enjoy themselves and not come along kind of to see the super god Boy George and faint. And I mean, people get hysterical, but I see it as them enjoying themselves. You know, it's like getting drunk, but it's a natural kind of high. And I really wish people would come along and do that.
But why you?
Why me? Why Elvis Presley? Why Bruce Springsteen? You know, why anybody? You know, obviously, you know, you may not be an Elvis Presley fan, but what did Elvis Presley give? He gave something, didn't he? You know, I'm talking about normal fans, I think. Obviously, they enjoy the music, and they enjoy the sentiments in the music, and the sentiments in the music are very strong. Love is a very strong thing. And it's never really... It's been out of vogue, and now it's back in vogue. It's back in vogue in a big way. You know, you've got Lionel Richie, all these kind of songs. You know, I know they've always been around, but now it's really strong. You know, all the songs are about love, and I think that melody's coming back now. You know, and I think you can relate to that. Do You Really Want to Hurt Me is a real kind of traditional pop song. And also, I think that maybe I'm doing something that nobody else has done in the sense that I'm making it very normal. Maybe people are sick to death of the kind of cliches, yeah, I'm trapped behind my image, aren't I weird? Maybe people are sick of that. Maybe people want to say, yeah, the guy's just normal, you know. Maybe people want that.
But people have always been threatened by a man wearing makeup, whether it was Quentin Crisp or David Bowie or Alice Cooper or, you know, whoever. I mean, that is something that...
Well, what are
You're
you
going to
saying?
have to talk them out of it, that's all.
Well, I haven't, because I don't think it makes any difference to anyone. I think, basically, people meet me and they're really surprised that I'm not hello or kind of very precious, you know. And also, I'm very masculine. I mean, I may look feminine, but I can take on the best of them, you know, physically. And I think that I am aware of the fact that I'm a man. I don't go into the bathroom in the morning and say, hey, I'm a woman, hey, aren't I beautiful? I'm a man. I'm very much a man. I have a hairy chest.
Do you really?
Yes, and I'm not showing you it either. But basically, I am very masculine, and I suppose what I'm doing is very it's contradicting everything. Everything is not what you see. I believe that things should not be what they seem, and I try very hard to make sure they're not. What I do in my songs is I avoid any kind of sexuality, male, female, men, men, women, women. I don't write songs. When I say "oh boy," I mean "oh boy" in this term. Oh boy, it's hot. Oh boy, I'm in love. Oh boy, I can't cope. I don't, it's kind of coincidental that I'm called Boy George and there's a lot of boy in the lyrics. It's got nothing to do with homosexuality. It's basically, my songs are very kind of non-sexual. They're sexual in the sense that they sing about love. I mean, obviously sex and love are very close things, but they're love songs, and they can just as well relate to the death of a goldfish as they can to somebody towing away your car, I mean, the thing is, a love song, you apply what you like to it. If you listen to Nilsson's Without You, maybe someone just towed your car away and you may be singing, I can't live. It could be anything,
About the music, first of all, who writes the songs?
We do.
Now, what does that mean?
It means Roy Hay, John Moss, Mikey Craig and Boy George. I have a cassette player or whatever, a notepad, and I basically use the beat of my feet to write songs. I'm walking along the street and I'll get a melody. And also because I'm very much a pop consumer, I listen to everyone. There's nothing I don't like, apart from maybe, skinhead music I don't like, But I listen to everything. I mean, I listen to Foreigner, I listen to Dolly Parton, I listen to 24 Hours from Tulsa. I listen to anything that I consider to be kind of interesting with a good melody line. And that's how I get my songs. I'm a plagiarist. I steal ideas. And this is one of the things I think Culture Club is a kind of very honest form of plagiarism in modern pop. Because people for years have stolen musical ideas. They all do it. But now, kind of everything's coming to the fore and it's kind of coming out. And people have to realise that they are stealing ideas, I copy things, but I do it in my way. And I think this is what we all do together. And, I write lyrics and melodies and then they put the music to it. And, if you have a unit, a democratic unit, you can't live without either one of them. And I certainly couldn't do what I'm doing without them.
How can a band be a democratic unit? I've never actually known it to work. I mean, everybody's always very insistent on saying that their band is democratic.
We have nothing in common with each other, nothing at all, and that's why we work.
Do you see each other outside of the band?
No.
None of you?
I see John quite often because, we're kind of very involved in this band, and I see Tony, who's the manager. But Roy and Mikey, they don't even see each other. But this is great, because they go away, they do their own thing, they listen to their own lives. And I think that, it's not like a gang. A lot of bands, they start from school or they're kind of really close friends and they argue. We have nothing in common. And this is one of their, this is like a saving grace. Because I don't have to explain why I do what I do or why I listen to certain things. We come, what we do is we spend 4 weeks in a rehearsal studio. We fight, we throw coffee over each other, we tell each other we got big noses and double chins and get stuffed, and all this kind of thing. Throw guitars, smash things, and be very aggressive. And then we'll have 4 days, and we'll write 10 songs, And it has a very immediate thing, We argue. We only argue on a musical level. We say, oh, I don't think that sounds very good, or that's a bit weak. But we don't argue, we don't argue over silly things. We just argue over what we're doing. Because at the end of the day, we all want the same thing, We all, even if there's a couple of songs that Roy hates, our guitarist, he hates them.
Which ones?
Karma Chameleon and It's a Miracle, and he says they're too poppy.
Is it It's a Miracle or America?
It's a Miracle in England and It's America in America.
Okay. Just clear that up. Very clever.
And in Japan it's Keisa Kisaki. Keisa Kisaki.
Now, do you record all these in different languages
we
literally
just use,
for the rest of the world?
Well, we're going to do that.
For every country?
Oh no, just for Japan because there's a real language barrier in Japan. Most countries in the world speak English. They understand. So, it's not that much of a problem.
So when you translate it into Japanese, is it It's a Miracle or It's America?
It's a Miracle.
Okay.
Keisa Kisaki.
It's a cute word. To get back to Do You Really Want to Hurt Me, when you had put out 2 singles prior to that in England, right? White Boy and
I'm Afraid of Me.
I'm Afraid of Me. When you wrote, did you write Do You Really Want to Hurt Me before you wrote those or after?
Same time.
Did you know there was something special about that song? Did it hit you at the time?
No, not me. I mean, John Moss, the drummer, demanded it was a single, and I said no way.
Why?
Because I loved it too much, and I think if you love things too much, it's generally too kind of self-opinionated. And I said, I don't think it's a single, it's a beautiful song. And my mother kept saying, release it, it's a great single. And I said, oh, you don't know what you're talking about. And eventually I just said, right, I'm washing my hands of the whole subject. Do what you want. So John said, I'm right, And I had to go back and say, you're right.
Yes, it certainly was. It was #1 in how many countries?
Oh, nearly every one.
It is a classic, don't you think? I mean, it's a standard on a certain level.
Well, it would be a
bit
big-headed of me to say, yes, I know it is, but I hope it is. The reason we're called Culture Club is because it's a very cultural kind of music. It not only takes from Latin American, it takes reggae, it takes a very American soul, Tamla Motown, blues, rhythm and blues, whatever, R&B, anything. And it's mixing them together to make a pop song that is kind of a mixture of all those things, you know. I mean, obviously some things are more than other, you know. But Church of the Poison Mind is a real Motown song. It's actually very similar to Baby,
Uptight.
Everything is all right, uptight, out of sight. That's what it's very similar to.
And there's a little bit of
Dancing
Tears of a
in the
Clown, I
street.
think.
That's what it's like as well. I mean, it's like a lot of things.
Tears of a Clown is in their tracks of my tears.
I mean, my biggest influence maybe is Philadelphia, Mamas and Papas. Mamas and Papas I love. The new album.
When you say Philadelphia, you mean Gamble and Huff or
no,
Teddy
kind of
Pendergrass?
Stuff like, you know, I can give you anything but my love. You know, that kind of stuff there. Gladys Knight and the Pips. Me and Mrs. Jones. Stuff like that. The real kind of smoochy, let's get into your guts. Nilsson. I mean, that's not Philadelphia, but that's a classic pop song. All things like that I like. Stevie Wonder. Early Stevie Wonder. You know, a lot of the early stuff there. I've been accused of being very similar to Smokey Robinson, although I've never really been a big Smokey Robinson fan. You know, I like Tears of a Clown, things like that, but I've never been a real fan of his. Yeah, but there's a lot of people that go on stage and go, ooh, I am Bowie, and do this kind of really fake Anthony Newley voice. You know, and this is something that I could have done. I could have been another Great White Hope. I've never wanted to be Bowie. I've never wanted to be Brian Ferry. I've always wanted to be like Randy Crawford or Johnny Nash, you know, or somebody with a great voice. I mean, I haven't got a great voice, but what I have got, I use very well. You know, I don't kind of want to be all angular and arty. I hate art. I just like things that are direct. I think that if you've got a good voice, that's enough. You don't have to kind of be all angular and distant and kind of weird.
Don't you think there's a contradiction somewhere in that you hate all this sort of arty trendiness, and yet in many ways that's the audience you've got in America?
No, I haven't. I don't think so.
In America?
No. Well, in Seattle I had women in fur coats, you know, screaming and saying, you know, am I too old to kiss?
Maybe it's just New York.
Maybe it's New York. I mean, any city, you know, New York and LA, we had a lot of trendies. But outside, we have kids. In Hartford, we had kind of big, you know, truckers sort of guys and hamburger queens who sat down for the first 4 numbers and give me filthy looks and then suddenly got up and danced. You know, most of our shows outside New York started off with kind of, and then, you know, and when I was in Boston, some guy threatened to throw me in the river because his daughter, like, came screaming up to me and said, can I have your autograph? And he said, if you go near him, I'll chuck you in the river with him, you know. You know, people are really uptight. I mean, there are certain people that are uptight about me, but I think in America there's a kind of very nervous atmosphere when you get in a lift. People give you really filthy looks, but they're not really being rude. They're just not sure if you're going to stab them or not. You know, they're not sure if you're going to pull out a gun and say, give me your wages. And if you just kind of break down that barrier and say, look, hi, you know, I'm a nice guy, you know, have a nice day, they're kind of friendly. And I think that obviously there are some people that you just can't get through to. But it's the same in England. You know, you may walk past a building site and somebody will try and drop a piece of scaffolding on your head, you know. But really, you know, it's... The world is the same all over, you know. People, there are creeps and there are nice people. I just assume there are a lot more nice people than there are creeps, and then I take it as it comes, you know. Well, Malcolm can only work with people with no personality. That's all I'm going to say.
But you were for 10 minutes with Bow Wow Wow,
Well,
or you did
for 3
an
months.
encore with
I was with
them.
them for 3 months.
But you only did one live show?
No, I did 3 live shows with Bow Wow Wow. Manchester, London twice, and another place in Edinburgh.
So this Lieutenant Lush, wasn't that you doing the
That was
encore?
me, yeah. And singing, yeah. I used to sing, have you heard the track Aphrodisiac on their album? I used to do that. I'm an aphrodisiac, don't know nothing, just relax. That one.
But you were supposed to kick her out? Is that what the plan was?
Well, you see, what happened was...
I'd just like it cleared up.
I went on stage, Malcolm had this crazy idea. He had a gig at the Rainbow in London, and he had a fun fair in the audience. It was really crazy. And he said, you're going to come on the encore, dressed up as the Archbishop and Vicarius. And you're going to sing this rock and roll song called Cast Iron Arm. Do you know that song? It's a very famous rockabilly song, American song, called by Peanuts Wilson.
We don't even know our own music here. It's
well,
all right.
Somebody will know it anyway. Somebody listening to the show. And I went on and sung that in the encore, and I got really good reviews. It was one of the reviews in the paper said, Boy George shifted all the sexual implications. You know, he's kind of like a viper. And I'm sure we're going to be hearing more about him, but they didn't. I got sacked. So I had to go and form my own band.
You got sacked why? Because she wasn't
no, because
smiling? Or...
Malcolm decided that he didn't like the way I dressed. He thought I was a silly kind of new romantic. He said, I don't like the way you dress. And I wouldn't wear his pirate clothes, and I wouldn't do what he said. So he shut me out.
One thing about the Hebrew letters and the Hasidic hat, did it ever occur to you that there are people who are very religious who might take offense?
No, it didn't occur to me.
Do you think it's happened at all? Do you think there are people who are who might be
in America, the Jewish
either Hasidim who would feel that this is a violation of a very religious, sacred thing to them?
Well, no, because I think that anybody celebrating your culture is better than having somebody threatening your culture.
Are you celebrating it?
Well, I mean, to have Tabut Agadah, which means Culture Club in Jewish, on a T-shirt is quite a celebration of the Jewish religion. It's not kind of saying, I hate Jews, And also, because in New York especially, the Jewish community is a lot more happier. In England, they're kind of still very frightened, they kind of don't really mingle. I mean, in New York, there's a lot of Jewish people, and they're really kind of bubbly. In New York, it's kind of very good to be Jewish. Everybody you meet.
Have you gone out to Williamsburg at all?
No, but I'm going there.
Drag. I would love to see that. Oh God, I
think that it's
the
kind of.
The music is quite amazing. I mean, they have unbelievable, beautiful melodies. To some of the music.
I don't think people care. I think that.
Did you go to Israel?
No, we're going there. We've had a number one in Israel.
Israel.
No, we've had a number one.
Would
there.
you wear this same?
Of course.
Drag in Israel.
Yeah, people would love it there. People would love it there. They would.
You do think so?
Yeah, of course they would. I know people because we've been in all the magazines there. Nobody's written saying,
I've never been to Israel. Are there pop magazines, really?
Yeah, Imagination are massive in Israel. All these kind of odd bands like Culture Club. We were really popular. We were number one there. We sold a lot of records there. I mean, it's not that big, but we sold a lot of records there. In the communities that buy records.
Your mother must love this. No?
She does love it, yeah. But she gets annoyed if I don't call her.
What's different about all of this than you thought it would be? I mean, when you started the band and when you wrote the songs and as it was starting to perhaps climb up the charts well before it got to number one, I mean, whatever your first thrill was, hearing it on the radio, what did you imagine? Fame, success, stardom? What did you think it would be like?
The first day we got to number one, we were number 3 and nobody bothered me in the street. We got to number 1 and I went into a supermarket in Scotland and I got jumped on. Everyone in the supermarket was on me and I had to run. This is the first day we went to number 1 in the morning, and I got in the cab with a keyboard player, and I said, God, it's terrible, isn't it? And he said, you love it. And the cab driver said, sorry to bother you, can I have your autograph? And that basically, success is signing bits of paper and and being chased along the road and having people scream at you and things. I don't know. Success is the main thing. Really, is to kind of make a record that people like. Success isn't something that you know about, I don't think. It's something that you kind of exist in and you work in. It's like having a job, Coming from nothing and being successful is such an achievement for me, because I never had anything. And now I've got something. And it's kind of wonderful.
Thank you very much, Boy George.
Thank you, Lisa. It's been a pleasure.